Yo, shalom, family. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, good evening, good day. How you guys feeling, man? We'd like to welcome you guys back to another episode of the Daily Bread Podcast, the place where we read the word of Yahuah daily. And I'm your host and your brother, Yahuah, and we gather here today, family, to read another chapter. Don't forget, the podcast is presented to you guys by Living for Yahuah Ministries. So we gather here today, family, to continue our read in the book of 1 Samuel. Today, we'll be jumping into chapter 25. And as you can see, we got it ready to go, and I'll pull it up here. But before we get into our chapter for the day, we're going to open up with a few housekeeping measures, like always. First, we'll give you guys a very brief recap for those who may be listening for the first time, or those who may need some context before just jumping into a random chapter. Then we'll move forward into prayer, and then we will get into our chapter for the day and read our chapter for the day and save any draw any conclusions or observations we find for the end, and we'll share that at the end, any observations at the end. So with that said, as far as the recap goes, just know we're reading the scriptures from the front to the back. Right now, we just getting into the middle. And how do we categorize what we're reading as the middle of our history, the time period? I look at it as understanding that we are in our own land. And this is, a very important part of our history. An important part of our history where we should go back and read, gather the context, and the context in these days and times means more, right? You have a part of the history in the context of scripture where we are in captivity, literally. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy were basically the beginning, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in Genesis, and from there on, we in captivity and in the wilderness, basically. So it's a very unique time period. And then even if you look at what they call the New Testament, aka the renewed covenant, in that time period with Mashiach, we not in our own land. Well, we in our own land actually, but we are being ruled by Gentiles, and they allowed us to govern ourselves basically. And that was not because they were so nice, right? That's because if you know the history, we really got to get into this. Yahuah willing. When we read the full scripture, we got to get into the Maccabees. Like I was just talking to my kids, my children. They were talking about some history they were learning in school, whatever it was, the Greek history, whatever, some European history. And I don't have a problem with that, but I was also telling them, like, during that time period was when the time of the Maccabees or whatever. I think it was in a certain period of time. And whatever it was, I mentioned the Maccabees. And the point is, we lived in our own land during the time of the New Testament, but we govern ourselves, and it wasn't because they were so nice, but we have a portion of our history actually that is between the last prophets in Yasharal and the New Testament, where they took out that time period, about 500 years during the Maccabees time period, where they actually tried to Hellenize us very intensely and very dramatically, right? And our people fought back so valiantly time and time again till they realized, like, what, this province of Judea, just leave them alone. And that's what happened with the whole Greco-Roman era, from literally the Greeks to even when the Romans rose, that we were always in the era we was in our own land but governed by ourselves. But the fact that the last 2,000 years we haven't been in our land, literally kicked out since the death of Mashiach 40 years later, 70 AD, it's very interesting. So this time period where we in our land and we governing ourselves it's like the pinnacle of our history, right? So that's what I categorize as basically like the middle of the book, because obviously the Torah is the beginning, coming into the promised land, Yahushua, Shafatim, Ruth. Now we got our own sovereigns, right? Our own intermediary between ourselves and Yahuah. Well, we had the priest, but the sovereign was like Yahuah in the flesh, incarnate, right? Which is why he was Mashiach, and which is why it's Mashiach is sovereign, right? It was all a foreshadowing of Yahushua. Anyway, we get into the time period where it's very interesting. That's what, to say the least. So, like I mentioned, I alluded to it already. We're reading from the front to the back. We already read Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Yahuah, aka Joshua, Shaphatim, aka Judges, and the book of Ruth, right? That all led us up to where we are now in First Samuel, First Samuel, and very interesting because it's called First Samuel, but a lot of the majority of the book talks about the life and times of our first two kings. So we're gonna see how that continues to play out, because from the title it looked like Shemuel is dead. You know, Shemuel died, so the book is named after him. But yeah, there's a lot of other things happening in the book. So let's continue reading and see how the story unfolds. So with that said, you know, even just mentioning the word death and the fact that Shemuel died, and just understanding everything we just mentioned about our history, from covenant with Abraham all the way into captivity and out of captivity and up into the Mashiach, up until now, like, it's a very tumultuous history. But one where we have not been left nor forsaken. So with all that said, we got to give praise and esteem to Yahuah. So I need you guys to join me in prayer so that we clear our hearts and minds and entreat the Elohim of Yasharal, Yahuah. So let's stand, if possible, face the direction of Jerusalem, lift up our hands, open our palms, and make supplication. Just like this. Baruch atah Yahuah Eloheinu Hamalak Ulam. Our Father who is in the heavens, permit your name to be set apart. Permit your reign to come. Permit your desire to be done on earth as it is in heaven. We come before you this day asking that you give us our daily bread. I also ask that you forgive us for our sins and our trespasses against your Torah and your commands, as we forgive our debtors and we forgive those who trespass against us. Ultimately, we ask that you please continue to allow us not to be led into trial, but save us and deliver us from the wicked one. For yours is the reign, the power, and the esteem, now and forever. These things and more we pray in the name of our Mashiach and sovereign Yahushua. Allah Yahuah, Tudah Yahuah, Yabarakak Yahuah. Amen. Amen. Yes, man. So it is. Let it be. And yeah, I always feel better when we pray, and I feel like it's such a big part of what we do here. So with that said, let's jump into our chapter for the day. 1 Samuel chapter 25, verse 1. And it reads, now Shemuel died. Shabbat Shalom, Aki. Rest in peace to the brother. And Shabbat Shalom. Yeah. R.I.P. Shemuel. And all Yasharal assembled and mourned for him. And they buried him in his house at Ramah. And this is so interesting, right? Because we've all buried family members, and you know, we've seen how the burial process goes. Some of us will understand, like, you know, the whole funeral home thing and arranging plots, and just the whole discussion that comes up when people die, especially people in our family. Is like bury them, cremation, what, all the expenses associated with death, like they say, final expenses. Very interesting, but it's interesting to see how, again, we reading with context and we see what our forefathers did. They got buried at their house. And I don't think they buried him in the house or next to the house, but I know that our people had nice amounts of land and they buried him on his land. I think it makes so much sense. That's what really make a property a family property. Literally, the parents are there. And it's a such relevant thing because, you know, just going through this process recently with a family member and having discussion, debate, cremation, we bury them. And one somebody in my family saying, "Oh no, you know, it don't make sense to bury people because, you know, they're not making no more funeral homes. Like, I mean, no more cemetery. They don't make no new cemetery." So he was just saying, like, you know, we don't know what they doing to our loved ones in these cemeteries when they, quote unquote, we pay all these thousands of dollars to bury them there, right? And it's just like, yeah, you pay for the headstone and memorial picture, what, and it's like, who knows if they really there? They don't have 1,000 funerals in that same spot, so it's really a mystery, kind of amazing. But in contrast, when we read with context, we see what our forefathers did. It made so much sense, right? You see, even from the infancy, again, we read it from the beginning. Abraham, the first example, Sarah, she died, and on the way to the place that Yahuah was showing him, and was it Sarah? Yeah, it was Sarah. And then he went to the Ephraimites, I think it was, the people of that land, and he said, sell me a piece of land so I could bury my loved one. And he ain't just buy a plot; he bought a whole field. So all his people could have got buried in that spot, in that field. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's two witnesses right here. We seeing what happened. They bury us in our own land. Guess what? So if my sons want to get buried next to me, wife, daughter, mama, kids, whoever, we ain't got to pay. I mean, it just makes so much sense, as we mature and get older, and we see one family member over here, one family member over there. It's like, man, the culture, we could have all this money, final expense money, we could have bought one little piece of family plot. All of us just be buried there. And it's a tax write-off. You can't pay taxes on it. It's a burial spot, whatever. And like you got tax advantaged property that your children can bury their old family. And it's just that it makes sense logically, but it's stuff like that we're gonna do in practice. So we have to see. But it's very interesting as we read. They buried him in his house at Ramah. So wherever he was from, where he was born, that's where he was laid. And it is what it is. Then Dude arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. And there was a man in Maon whose business was in Carmel. The man was very rich. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. He was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife was Abigail. The woman was discerning and beautiful, but the man was harsh and badly behaved. He was a Calebite. Dude heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep. So Dude sent 10 young men, and Dude said to the young man, go up to Carmel and go to Nabal and greet him in my name. And thus you will greet him. Peace be to you, and peace be to your house, and peace be to all that you have. I hear that you have shearers. Now your shepherds have been with us, and we did them no harm, and they missed nothing all the time they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever you have at hand to your servants and to your son Dude. So, what is happening here? You heard what he said. He said, go greet, buddy. Okay? Tell him peace be there. We come in peace, and we wish peace upon you, right? But he telling them some real information right now. He said, hey, the people was out in the field, and we was with them. We helped them out. And he asking for something. He basically saying, let me hold something. And this is the way how they did it in Hebrew, right? He said, what did he say? We come on a feast day. What did he say? Let us find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever you have at hand to your servant and to your son. We call him a son. So it's the most loving, respectful way you can ask to let me hold something. Please find favor. Let my people please find favor in your eyes. And whatever you have in hand, put it in our hand. Let us hold something. Straight up. We hungry. Asking literally for food. Literally. In the nicest way possible. Verse 9. When Dude's young men came, they said all this to Nabal in the name of Dude. And then they waited. And Nabal answered Dude's servants. Who is Dude? Who is the son of Yeshai? There are many servants these days who are breaking away from their master. This nigga ain't nobody. Will I take my bread and my water and my meat that I have killed from my shearers and give it to men who come from I do not know where? I ain't got nothing for you, buddy. So dude's young man turned away and came back and told him all this. So dude said to his men, every man strap on his sword. Oh, that boy said, get the strap. We might have to name that episode that right there. Get the strap. Dude, we know what type of time brother on. This brother right here. He on that type of time. And dude said to his men, every man strap on his sword. And every man of them strapped on his sword. Dude also strapped on, he had that Goliath sword. That boy had that big Draco, AK-47. Everybody else got a little handgun. They had the big sword. That's crazy. And about 400 men went up after dude, while 200 remained with the baggage. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, and I, you just think about what's going on. Like I said, you got to read this with context, because look at the number. This is 600 people with him, and just like it told us that before. So imagine you in the, like I was saying this before. You got to read this with. Imagine you in the wilderness, you camping out with 600 people, and y'all ain't got no food. Come on, man, because people will be like, well, why he did that? How he got in the situation? Come on, man. We got to really read with understanding. Man, camping out in the wilderness with 600 people. Looking at each other, and they looking at him. And so guess what he did? Yeah, man, we gonna find some work. That's what them people over there, we see him. We up on the hill, we looking at them boys down there, but we ain't finna go do no mischief. Guess what? We gonna watch their back. We looking out for them. There's all these thousands of sheep looking like meat to us, looking like straight prey for us, but we ain't gonna do that. We gonna help them out. Okay, cool. A week go by, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. Yeah, okay, them boys good. We look out for them. We been thugging it, eating locusts and honey, straight up, in the field, drinking water out the river. Yeah, picture that. Now, go holler at buddy, man. Look, man, but we looked out for your people now. Yeah. Let me hold something. Flatters find favor in your eye. Well, you could have threw us 5 sheep, bro. We gonna bust it down. Come on, man. He could have, and that's why you got it's more blood. Mashiach said it. It's better to give than to receive, man. He could have just gave that man something. But anyway, he in the wilderness with the 600 men, so they done got the strap now. Because he kind of disrespected a little bit, right? He said, who dude? You know who dude is, man. Dude was a good dude. And not only was he a good dude, that's the one who slayed Goliath. And everybody know what time. You know what time he on, buddy. So you talking real greasy. You know who dude is. That's crazy. So dude went up, about 400 men went up after dude, 200 stayed with the baggage. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, behold, dude sent messengers out of the wilderness to greet our master. And he railed at them. They put it the right way. He went off on them boys. Something back home with their tail between their legs. Man, them boy was some men of valor, some strong brothers. He ain't had to do that. He ain't like he just said, no, you kind of disrespected. Verse 15. Yeah, the men were very good to us, and we suffered no harm. And we did not miss anything when we were in the fields as long as we went with them. They were a wall to us both by night and by day. All the while we were with them keeping the sheep. Now therefore know this and consider what you should do. For harm is determined against our master and against all his house. And he is such a worthless man that one cannot speak to him. When Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves and 2 skins of wine and 5 sheep already prepared and 5 seahs of parched grain and 100 clusters of raisin and 200 cakes of figs and laid them on donkeys. That's all it took. And they had that to give. That showed them people had big estate, big farm, big ranch, big estancia. Yeah, you had a whole big old estate. You could have just, you know what I'm saying? Let them boys come shake the little raisins off the tree. But he was really disrespectful a little bit. People that helped him. So his wife had the insight and she got a little care package together. Verse 19. And she said to her young men, go on before me. Behold, I come after you. But she did not tell her husband Nabal. And as she rode on the donkey and came down under cover of the mountain, behold, Dude and his men came down toward her, and she met them. Now, I always, before I even keep reading, I don't even know what it's going to say next. I'm not really looking, but I always love this chapter because, in my opinion, it shows one of the many examples, but one of the most examples with a lot of context that show you how the women interacted with men in Yasharal, right? Because she don't know this brother. Obviously, they know dude, they know his men with him. They heard the dude, but this could have been any brother. But how she postured herself is like, it's so many instances you see that women just greet men with such high regard and high respect in the Hebrew culture. It's crazy because you don't see that today. We're so far removed from that, but this was an interesting situation. But still, in many instances, you see where it give you some context about the intricacies and the details. You'll see that women always had kind words for the men, and it was like, how can a woman not find favor in your sight when she coming so humbly, so submissively, so respectfully, right? And they be like, we wouldn't have no problem. But it's like, yeah, we gotta learn some things in this society we in today. So I'm gonna read verse 20 again. As she rode on the donkey and came under cover of the mountain, behold, Dude and his men came down toward her, and she met them. Now, Dude has said, surely in vain have I guarded all that this fellow has in the wilderness, so that nothing has missed of all that belonged to him, and he has returned me evil for good. What it say? Elohim, Elohim, and now verse 22. Elohim do so to the enemies of Dude, and more also, if by morning I leave so much as one male of all who belong to him. So he had definitely determined evil for Buddy. He took the disrespect hard. Verse 23. When Abigail saw Dude, she hurried, got down from the donkey, and fell before Dude on her face and bowed to the ground. You can't put your hands on a woman that do that. You can't say nothing. Well, whoever you was mad at, you ain't even gonna be mad at no more. Verse 24. She fell at his feet and said, on me alone, my master, be the guilt. Please let your servant speak in your ears and hear the words of your servant. Oh, man. She found favor in my eyes. Every time I read this, it's like, yo, this was a good woman. She was smart, not just smart, but very humble, submissive, and just full of the culture. You know, this is what that Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, Near Eastern culture was all about, right? And even Africa, you know, North Africa, South Africa, all of Africa, Near East, all of that, just the ancient cultures everywhere pretty much. But in this context, so resounding, right? So resounding how she just able to turn off that man anger with just kind word and submissiveness, extreme submissiveness. Verse 25. Let not my master regard this worthless fellow, Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal. Nabal means fool. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, your servant, did not see the young man of my master whom you sent. Now then, my master, as Yahuah lives, and we know Yahuah lives, hold up. As Yahuah lives, and as your soul lives, because Yahuah has restrained you from blood guilt and from saving with your own hand, now then let your enemies and those who seek to do evil to my master be as Nabal, fools. Verse 27. And now let this present that your servant has brought to my master be given to the young man who followed my master. Straight up. Lift that man up, even in the eyes of his servant. Like, hey, boy, you the big man. And you right, and the people who follow you, they right. They all right. Hey, y'all all, hey, chill. Straight up. You got something for them, something for you, everybody. Go, y'all just turn around and go the other way. Please. Thank you. Verse 28. Please forgive the trespass of your servant. For Yahuah will certainly make my master a sure house, because my master is fighting the battles of Yahuah, and evil will not be found in you so long as you live. Hey, so Hold up. Buddy talking about who is dude and the son of your shit. He know his daddy, and you know who dude is. Your wife know who dude is. So that's crazy. This is Yasharal. Everybody know who dude is. Dude was a good dude. Verse 29. If men rise up to pursue you and seek your life, the life of my master will be bound in the bundle of the living in the care of Yahuah Elohim, and the lives of your enemies he will sling out as from the hollow of a sling. Let me read that again. I read it, but I want to make sure. Very interesting. I see what she's saying though. So you're gonna be good regardless. And anybody who try to pursue you, yeah, they're gonna get slung out. But if men rise up to pursue you and to seek your life, the life of my master will be bound in the bundle of the living in the care of Yahuah, your Elohim. Say Yahuah got you. We know that. Everybody know Yahuah got you. You heard what she said. My master is fighting the battles of Yahuah. Hey, aren't we all? You know what I'm saying? That's what Yasharal is supposed to be doing. Fighting the battles of Yahuah. Literally, Yahuah Sabaoth. We the army of Yahuah. Right? We soldiers in the army. So, and again, these people understand all of this so clearly. Right? And Nabal was the only one tripping out like he don't know what's going on. He didn't get with the program. But you got to love the consciousness of Yasharal, the consciousness of the nation. Everybody understood what was going on. Who's who, what's what. And again, this woman is Proverbs 31 all the way. In the lives of your enemies, he will sling out as from the hollow of a sling. Verse 30. And when Yahuah has done to my master according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and has appointed you prince over Yasharal, leader over Yasharal, my master will have no cause of grief or pangs of conscience for having shed blood without cause, or for my master working salvation himself. And when Yahuah has dealt well with my master, then remember your servant. I know he sounds. Remember you right now. Verse 32. And Yahuah said to Abigail, and dude said to Abigail, blessed be Yahuah, Elohim of Yasharal, who sent you this day to meet me. Straight up, for real. Blessed be Yahuah. Blessed be your discretion. She definitely had discretion. And Barukatah, blessed be you, who have kept me this day from blood guilt and from working salvation with my own hand, because he was definitely about to do it, ain't he? Verse 34. For as surely as Yahuah, the Elohim of Yasharal lives, who has restrained me from hurting you. That's a crazy conversation right there, but I was going to do something bad to your family. Unless you had hurried and come to meet me, truly by morning, there had not been left to Nabal so much as one male. That's crazy. That boy was a problem. Then dude received from her hand what she had brought him, and he said to her, go in peace to your house. See, I have obeyed your voice, and I have granted your petition. Boy, that when I say this example of this woman right here was so amazing. Verse 36. And Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he was holding the feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunk. So she told him nothing at all until the morning light. In the morning, when the wine had gone out of Nabal, his wife told him these things, and his heart died within him, and he became as a stone. About 10 days later, Yahuah struck Nabal, and he died. 10 right there, 10. Number, not completion, but 10 is like 1. Anyway, 10 days later. So it was some time had passed. Some time definitely had passed. Week and some days, for sure. That, and it wasn't due. It was like, hey, whatever happened, happened. Then time passed and something else happened. And it was not connected. Verse 39. It was definitely Yahuah struck him. Verse 39. When dude heard that Nabal was there, he said, Baruch be Yahuah, who has avenged the insult. He definitely insulted my brother. That was an insult. We could debate about it. Well, was it an insult? Did he take it too harsh? Was it just a hard no? It wasn't just no. He kind of disrespected. He definitely disrespected. Baruch be Yahuah, who avenged the insult I received at the hand of Nabal, and has kept back his servant from wrongdoing. Yahuah has returned the evil of Nabal on his own head. Then dude sent and spoke to Abigail to take her as his wife. Yeah. When the servants of dude came to Abigail at Carmel, they said to her, dude has sent us to you to take you to him as his wife. So he sent people. He didn't even go. Well, they had met. He saw her, she saw him, but he sent people to take her, to ask her to be his wife. And she arose and bowed with her face to the ground and said, behold, your handmaid is a servant to wash the feet of the servants of my master. Man, ooh. What type of woman is this? This Proverbs 31 all the way, man. Every time I read this chapter about this woman, it's like, bro, if women was more like this, the world would be a better place. No doubt. No doubt. Verse 42. Not meaning because you tell me I'm your handmaid and I'm gonna serve you to wash my feet and wash the feet of my servant. Not to say that I'm gonna be the person that make you and I'll go wash the feet of my servant. No, but it's the fact that the extreme humility she's showing. Obviously, she was beautiful, attractive, and so humble. Such humility is like these day and age is so far apart from each other as far as east is from west. They find those both qualities in a single female. It's so crazy. But that was the standard where we from, again, in the pinnacle of our existence, in our own land, governing ourselves. Yeah, you had some back and forth with each other as far as the turmoil in Yasharal, but the constant was the culture, household, the women, the children, the family structure. And the confrontation was few and far in between, which is why I got wrote about. But mostly, hey, people gonna be at peace because there ain't much to argue about. When you got your family, I got my family. If we're in the issue of debt or really rulership at the pinnacle, it ain't really much to fight about, right? And everybody understood, hey, married women off limits, no adultery. But you know, all women in the culture was very submissive and obedient. That take away a lot of strife, and just such peaceful environment and conducive environment to raise good children, good families, and make a strong nation. So it's so important. But I digress. She arose and bowed with her face to the ground and said, behold, your handmaid, woman is a handmaid, is a servant to wash the feet of the servants of my master. And Abigail hurried and rose and mounted a donkey, and her 5 young women attended her. She followed the messengers of Dude and became his wife. Dude also took Achinoam of Israel, and both of them became his wives. Whoa, whole another topic, another day. But notice how this man had multiple wives. You could say, and it's so funny because these days you need to tell them, oh, but you gotta have this, $1 million. This man in the wilderness camping, straight up, ain't got a house to stay in the window, a pot to piss in, and the window to throw it out. But he got 2 wives. But he got a great name. He got a steam. Who is with him, and that's all that matters. And that's the type of woman you want. Then that's why they deserve to be in the kingdom with me. They deserve to be in the castle with the brother, because guess what? You was with me when I was camping out in the woods. I'm in the wilderness, and he taking wives to himself. So just a message and an extreme amount of context is like me as a man, I just cannot read over this without speaking on it because it's a far cry from the society we're in today. But that's why this is an interesting context and time period of our history, because it was how Yahuah made it to be, and that's all we can say. Yahuah lived, and this is Yahuah way, his Torah, be fruitful and multiply, right? X, Y, Z, he made women to serve man, not to serve man. How he put it? Women was made for man. Woman made from the rib of man to be his helpmate, right? Literally. And it is what it is. And it says Shaul had Michal, his daughter, dude's wife, had given Michal, dude's daughter. Verse 44. Shaul had given Michal, his daughter, dude's wife, to Palti, the son of Lachish, who was of Galim. So very interesting chapter. And yeah, again, what shall we say then? Kind of talk back on the part about, first of all, Abigail, so humble and submissive. That's the main thing, Even if you have one wife, you would pray that she is the same demeanor as this woman, right? She was Proverbs 31 woman all the way. And this is one of the instances, besides just getting to read about Solomon's words and the ideal, I guess, like prototypical Proverbs 31. It's like that was more of an example, because it wasn't really talking about, it was like a proverb, right? It's initially a riddle, a parable. But he writing in so many ways to speak about a good woman, right? But this is actual context of a real person that embodied those characteristics. So that's so important. Obviously, it came before Charlemagne, right? This is before was even with Solomon's mother. And so that's important, the context of women in general. Then it go without saying, I always got to talk about it because, again, it's the life and times of dude. And the scriptures give us more insight to this man's life than any other man we're going to read about. So we got to talk about this. And anytime you talk about multiple wives, it's like, oh, well, you ain't got this, you can't do this, you can't do that, woo. And it's like, oh, well, you got to talk to, the wife got to agree to it and whatnot. He ain't going to ask the first one before he took the second one. Or he ain't go to me, this other show daughter, the first one, say, hey, I got a daughter, wife and a girl in the wilderness, I want to take her. He made decisions the man. And it was like, that was what it was. You heard what she said? Hey, I'm gonna wash the feet of my master's servant. That is crazy, yo. That's the heck of a statement right there, man. This just says a lot about her demeanor and humility. Like, amazing. And it's not to say that we the type of brothers that want to mistreat women. No, it's to say that it's a clear hierarchy, and the woman is how can I say, like, acquiescing to the man, right? She let him know that I'm here to serve you. And those type of women, you give the word to, you gonna go out and, man, I'm pretty sure he would run through a brick wall for that woman, right? And anybody mess with her, he gonna have all them people foreskins and their family too. He would definitely kill somebody about this lady. Nigga tried to mess with his wife. A woman that is this delicate and this submissive, you would do anything for. And so, very interesting context. About Nabal. We understood what happened in the wilderness. The situation was what it was. He asked them to let him hold something. Fine. He said, can I find favor in your sight? Give us some food. That's all he asked for. And the man didn't do it. He didn't acquiesce, but his wife did. And she was wise for that. And dude became blessed by having that wise woman next to him, right? And this is an interesting chapter because if you read this book before, the scriptures, it won't talk about her much going forward anymore. It won't talk about her much at all. But it's important to know who she was and her character, because this was a good woman. Proverbs 31 all the way, like I said before, because it's the life and times of dude. Dude gonna be king. Dude gonna take another wife. He gonna do this. It don't really mention Abigail much more after this, but I always love to read this chapter about these couple chapters, or this chapter about her and how she came to him, because it was so. Yeah, humility is superpower, and submission is a woman's superpower, and it's just so rare these days. It's just a breath of fresh air to even read about it. So, yeah, man, that's how I feel, and I think that's just the facts. That is me understanding the context, the culture from which we all came from, right? Culture, like I said, the cradle of civilization, the Near East, Mediterranean, the Yasharal culture, African culture. It is something that is truly one to be held and something that would change the world, in my opinion. So yeah, let me know what y'all thoughts is about that, about Nabal, dude being in the wilderness. Any thoughts you guys want to share, please leave a comment. Make sure, please, please, please like the video, subscribe if you haven't, share it with somebody who you feel like could benefit from hearing the word of Yahuah. And again, thank you guys for reading with me. Thank you guys for walking with me. Looking forward to the next chapter and continue to see how the story unfolds. But until then, shalom, shalom, peace in the Middle East, family.